Guys, millions of Americans are quietly running out of money. Not all at once, not because they suddenly lost a job. They're simply being squeezed from every direction financially. Higher grocery prices, higher insurance premiums, higher housing costs, higher debt payments, right? Higher utility bills at home. And now there's growing concern about energy prices because of the conflict over in the Middle East. The deal is this: eventually, something's got to give. Because here's what I believe, okay? Me personally, the economy is going to create pressure on all of us, all of our households. But a financial system is what's going to help all of us survive that pressure from the economy. And we're going to talk about what you should be doing right now to make sure that you can weather the storm. But just remember, you don't need a perfect economy to build wealth for you or your family. You need a financial system that's going to work no matter what's going on in the economy. Now, I don't want to make this video about Republicans versus Democrats or about blaming Congress or blaming President Trump. That's not what this video is going to be all about, right? But the reality is this: regardless of who's in the White House or who controls Congress, families have to be able to live and pay bills in this unpredictable economy that looks good on the surface, right? All the numbers are looking good, but it's causing millions of Americans to feel this financial pressure. So I want to show you what's happening in the economy, why so many people feel like they're falling behind, and most importantly, what you can be doing right now to avoid becoming a statistic or to avoid becoming one of those people who are running out of money, right? So let's look at what's really happening, okay? First things first, before we blame inflation for everything, let's look at where millions of Americans are already standing financially, okay? You got credit card balances at historically high levels right now. You have interest rates on those credit cards that are still extremely expensive in the 20 to 23% range. And you have nearly 50% of all Americans carrying credit card balances month over month. A lot of people say, I pay my credit card off every month, but a lot of people actually have balances. And if you have those balances, you're going to be paying that high interest. Auto loans for Americans continue to be larger than they've ever been. Right now, you got a lot of people financing vehicles for longer periods of time than ever. According to the latest automotive market report that was published by Edmunds, a record 23% of new car purchases right in America are financed for 7 years or longer. Then you got student loan payments that have also returned for most people. So many families out here in America, they're making payments to credit card companies, car lenders, student loan providers, mortgage companies, insurance companies. All of that stuff is taking place before people even buy food. Then we wonder why people feel so stressed. Think about it. Guys, let me know in the comments what's causing you the most pain financially in your budget right now. Is it groceries? Is it insurance? Is it housing? Is it car payments? Is it credit cards or something else? Just drop that in the comment section below. And listen, if nothing's causing you pain, let me know that too in the comments. Now, let's talk about savings and jobs for a hot minute, because this is where the financial squeeze that we're seeing becomes even more a problem for most people. Right now, savings rates are going down for most Americans, and a lot of people are relying more on credit cards simply to maintain their everyday living. So many people pay their bills. I hear more and more people saying, I only use my credit cards to pay bills, all my bills, and I don't use cash at all. Look, if that's you, raise your hand, right? For a lot of people, their emergency savings have been shrinking, and people are using these credit cards as a way of emergency savings, but also, as I said, as a way of paying their everyday bills. And to me, this is just me personally, that's a problem. And I know most of you are saying, look, I can handle it. I pay all of my credit card off every single month, but guess what? A lot of people don't do that. And for a lot of people, it's difficult to maintain the discipline to manage a credit card like that, because life doesn't stop throwing surprises at all of us, right? So now you're using your credit card to pay your everyday bills, but you're also using a credit card to manage your emergencies that come up. Cars break down. ACs go out, right? Air conditioners go out in the hot summer months. Medical bills come out of nowhere. Job changes. Those things happen. So you've got to be cautious about that. Now, speaking of jobs, the unemployment rate is right around 4.3% right now. That's still relatively low by historical standards. Let's just be real, right? That's not a high unemployment rate at all. But we're also at the same time seeing signs that hiring has slowed down quite a bit when you look at the new jobs that are being reported by the Bureau of Labor. Companies right now are becoming more selective in terms of who they're hiring. AI is starting to do its thing in a bigger way. Now, let's add another layer on top of this whole conversation. You got President Trump that's repeatedly said that he wants to lower inflation and he wants a stronger economic growth and lower energy costs. We get all that, right? Those are goals that most Americans would probably welcome. But the stock market don't change overnight. The economy takes time to respond to policy or rhetoric, right? Just talk. In the meantime, families still have to pay bills today, right? You still got your heating bill. You still got to put gas in your car to get back and forth to work every single day. So with all of this, here's what I want you to notice and be thinking about. None of the things that I've talked about so far by themselves usually destroy somebody's personal finances. But when all these things are happening at the same time, things can look good on the news with the information that they're reporting, but things can still be bad. We can still have higher grocery prices, which we have. We can still have higher insurance premiums for most things that we try to insure, which we have. We can still have higher debt payments, lower savings, which we have, right? Slower hiring. And we can still have uncertainty about these energy prices that seem to keep rising, right? None of these things by themselves is going to break a family's finances. We know that. But it's when all of these pressures hit at the same time, that's what I personally call a financial squeeze that a lot of families in America are experiencing. Now, let's talk about inflation, energy, and the stock market a little further, okay? Inflation, we know it's cooled down compared to where it was a couple of years ago, but it's starting to go back up. We saw that with the latest inflation report. Now look, lower inflation than it was back in 2021 and 2022 does not mean that prices went down. Of course, prices don't go down. It simply means prices have been increasing a little slower, but now they're starting to increase faster. And that's why groceries still feel very expensive. That's why eating out at restaurants still costs more. That's why a lot of people in America, a lot of families still feel stretched because they're trying to accompany these increased prices in their budget. Now let's talk about energy, because energy is important. Energy really controls not just transportation and what you pay for gas, but it also affects what it costs food to get from wherever it's being raised or built or made and manufactured to the grocery store. That takes energy to get it there. Then it takes energy for you to go pick it up. Then it takes energy for you to cook the food, right? So energy is everywhere. Now, the conflict in the Middle East that has created uncertainty in the global oil markets, we're all pretty familiar with it. And one area that everybody's been watching is the Strait of Hormuz, right? The good news for all of us is that the Strait of Hormuz is officially, as of the making of this video, open. That means oil is passing through more freely, which also means that the supply of oil is hopefully going to come back to where it was. So you got commercial ships and oil tankers that have resumed traveling through the Strait of Hormuz, right through that region, following a memo of understanding, an MOU between the U.S. and Iran. However, the situation remains tense, right? We've seen during this conflict over in the Middle East that a little bit of restraint on the Strait of Hormuz can cause our gas prices to go up, right? The price of oil and the barrel oil to go up as well. Shipping volumes have not yet returned to what these pre-conflict levels, and energy markets are still watching these developments very closely. But as of now, it's open, the Strait of Hormuz. We got ships going through there, thankfully, which hopefully can help increase the supply of oil and lower our prices that we ultimately have to pay for that energy. And that's important because if oil prices move any more higher, right, we as consumers, we're going to feel it through gas prices. So we're hoping that comes down. Again, that's another source of financial pressure on households. When you got to go to work and you got to commute 20 or 30 miles just one way and you're driving a car, guess what? You got to pay more gas. That ends up being an extra $50, $100, $200 that you're coming out of your budget to pay every month. More pressure. Now, let's talk real quickly about the stock market. Despite many of these challenges and pressures that we're talking about, the stock market has remained surprisingly resilient. I think the S&P 500 right now, year to date, is over 9%, which is pretty good. And here's something I always remind people of. The stock market is not the total economy. So just because the stock market looks like it's doing well, don't mistake that for everything's going well in the American economy. And the economy itself is not your own household budget. So things could be looking well and going well out in the economy, but still what you pay every single month on your budget is not where you want to be. So you can have a strong stock market while you have families that are still feeling this pressure and still struggling to make ends meet, right? President Trump has often pointed to stock market performance as a sign of economic confidence. But that can be a little misleading, right? The stock market certainly matters, but what matters even more to your family, to your household budget, is whether your own financial household is in order. Now, that's not something we can necessarily leave up to the president or Congress. We got to do something about that. So that's a good segue to talk about what we should be doing right now with our personal finances. Really important. So remember this, guys. You can't control inflation. You can't control prices. You can't control interest rates, what the Fed does, right? You can't control who occupies the White House, but you can control your financial system, right? What happens in your own four walls. So here's where I would focus. Number one is this: know exactly where every dollar is going. Be intentional about how you're spending your money right now. No guessing, no estimating, right? Write things down. Have a budget. Second thing is this: make sure you attack any bad debt you have. Bad debt is debt on anything that's not going up in value. Attack it aggressively. Every dollar of interest that you got to shell out to some payment is money that's not building your future. Every dollar of interest that you can eliminate from your life is like giving yourself a raise. Third thing is this: what we can do. Look for ways to increase your income. If it's a certification, go get it. If it's a skill that you need to get, go get it. Look, whatever it takes. Some of you just need a valuable skill that is going to be a higher paying skill than what you have right now. Here's the truth. You can only cut expenses so much. Let's be real, okay? I know we have a lot of gurus on YouTube that say, hey, you got a penny pinch and don't buy that Starbucks and, make sure you don't spend this much money on this. And look, you can only do so much cutting. You still have to live and breathe. Sometimes moving to another city or to a less expensive area is not really the most convenient thing for most people. And I'm not saying everything has to be convenient, but again, sometimes you get to the bare bones of cutting expenses and you can't cut no more. I get it. And that's the time when you have to begin thinking of ways that you can grow your income. Now, the fourth thing is this: protect your emergency fund. Even if you're only saving a little each month, try to build that thing up. It's very important to have a strong safety net because stuff happens. We know that. The fifth thing I think you should concentrate on doing is avoid taking on new debt, especially for things like cars, right? You don't want new debt, and that's going to take some discipline. And then the fifth thing is keep investing consistently. And notice I'm mentioning investing last because there's some other things you can do right now that's going to make your financial situation stronger. Yeah, we want to invest, but investing is a long game. So I mentioned investing last because it's not the first thing you want to concentrate on, but it is important, right? I like to do what we call dollar cost averaging. We put a certain amount of money in at a certain increment, $100 a week, $500 a month, $800 a paycheck, whatever it could be. And here's the kicker. Don't allow these scary headlines out there to stop your long-term investing. Successful investing has never depended on having perfect timing. I got to get this right. I got to get this right. Look, nobody's perfect with it. It really depends on just absolute consistency. Don't stop. Keep going. Keep investing, right? Here's the deal. We can't control all the stuff going on around us, the inflation. We can't control the president or what happens in DC. We can't do nothing about the world events and wars and things like that may be going on a global scale, right? But we can control our spending, our savings, our debt, our investing, right? A good financial system that you can create for yourself is going to work in a good economy and it's going to work in a bad economy. The deal is you got to build your own economy in your own four walls. That's the kicker. The people who come out ahead over you in the next 10 years from now, they won't necessarily be the same people who make the most money. It's not about that. They're going to be the ones who manage the money that they make the best. Look, we know that Americans are quietly running out of money right now. Your job for you and your household is to do something about it. Look, if you found this quick video helpful, do me a favor, don't keep it to yourself. Share this information with somebody who could use a little bit of financial encouragement right now based on what's going on in the economy. And if you got value, let me know you got value in the comments below. I really would appreciate it. Hey, the best person who's going to take care of the old you is the young you. Until the next video, peace.